Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Dave Wagner and I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing here at InEight. I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar on Never Again Use Email to Manage Your Construction Document Review Processes. Leading today's webinar is Ben Hopgood. As a leader in the construction document management space, Ben brings almost a decade of experience supporting and servicing solutions for contractors, engineers, and owners across numerous industries, from oil and gas to infrastructure and commercial residential building projects. Ben joined InEight as part of the 2018 acquisition of QA Software and their TeamBinder product. Ben is now a lead project document consultant where he's focused on delivering the most functionally complete, interoperable, and modular software solutions built to optimize capital programs while controlling costs, reducing risk, and driving predictable outcomes. He attended Griffin University, obtaining a degree in international business with a major in economics. So before I turn it over to Ben for a few logistical items, all the attendees on the phone are going to be muted. But if you have a question, we encourage you to enter it into the GoToWebinar Questions dialog box. We'll field these questions at the end of the presentation. We'll also be distributing the link to the presentation in the coming days. So with that said, Ben, the floor is yours.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dave. So today we wanted to go through some of the information around how InEight Document can assist with the approval of documentation. So based on my experience within the industry, there have been a number of challenges that have typically been encountered when handling document approval via email, the traditional format. Some of the key items would be things such as managing a distribution list. It can be very hard to figure out who needs to review a particular drawing, obtain their contact details, issue them the drawings, and ensure they return them. A typical problem encountered with email is also around things like file size limitations. I may be uploading a large drawing and issuing that out through my email. My internal or IT may have put some limitations on the size of the files that I'm sending out. How can I ensure that my recipients receive it, if they may have a different limitation put in place on their end? Of course, as you send out a number of emails to a number of different recipients, and of course get that feedback, how do you put it all together? And furthermore, the feedback that you do receive may be provided inconsistently. So it then takes a more extensive amount of time to put that feedback together at the end of the day. And of course, tracking through emails can be incredibly difficult, as you would have to audit your inbox to try and figure out who has actually responded to that email to provide you input. If the key engineers come back with any comments against that particular drawing, it can be very hard to tell. So how InEight Document assists with this? Now, the document review process in InEight Document is essentially made up of three fundamental components: the submission of the drawings, the review of those drawings, and of course the final step being the approval and or rejection of those items. Any of these components can be used partially or fully within the system, or in an electronic format, or in a hard copy format as well. So how does this all work within an InEight Document? Well, first, we have some built-in business rules that control how items move through the system. Our first business rule is who can actually take an item and publish it into our document register, controlling whether subcontractors or consultants can actually provide us with documentation and in what format. The question we're really talking about here today is the approval process. So once the document gets into our document register, is a review then required for that document? If the answer is no, we can set up a distribution rule in the system so it's sent out to our wider project team for them to start working with. But in this example, if we said yes, we can then establish a number of key roles within the system. A review initiator role, which would be someone like your document controller, who might do a quick spot check on the document to ensure some of the key information is in place, like a title block or a correct drawing number. Our review team, which is the reviewers that need to actually come through and offer input on that drawing. And a review coordinator. This is someone like your subject matter expert who will actually be able to provide a decision as to whether that document or drawing should be rejected and returned to the individual who uploaded it with comments, or released and made available to the wider project group. Within the review team, there are a number of different ways we can actually set this up. We can set this up to be a serial review, where our uploader uploads the document, and that document moves sequentially through our reviewers and to our review coordinator to get input in an ordered format before the release rejection step is taken and the wider project team is informed. Within this review team, we have a little bit of extra flexibility where we can actually set up what we would call a parallel review, where all our reviewers obtain access to the document at the same time and offer some input before returning it to the review coordinator, who again gets to undertake that release or rejection step. Now, within a parallel review, we've got a couple of elements here that will allow us a little bit more flexibility, just to ensure that our review process isn't being held up at any point in time. In this example, what we've done is we've made reviewer 1 optional. What this means is we need reviewer 2 and reviewer 3 to offer some input on that drawing. But as far as we're concerned, reviewer 1, if he or she does offer input, that's fantastic. If not, let's keep that review moving, get it to the review coordinator so that we can make a decision on that drawing in a timely manner. Furthermore, we can even go about using what we call an either option. In this example, we need reviewer 3's input, but reviewer 1 and 2 have a very similar role and similar experience. So as long as we get one of the two of them to look at that drawing, we can continue to move it forward. And again, just ensure that we get that review process done in a timely manner. So just a quick look at some of the screens that you would see within an InEight document. One of the key elements is, of course, always being able to see where that review progress is up to. So anytime a document is under review within an InEight document, we can very quickly see a list of the key members who are reviewing that document, or key reviewers, any scheduled completion dates that they may have around their review, the order of their review, and of course, who the review coordinator is going to be, in this case, Joe Fredericks. Now, to ensure that all our reviewers are kept up to date, the system does come in and actually issue notifications to them to let them know through the use of their normal email system that they do have a document that is awaiting their review and any key dates that they may have around it. They can then come into the system and actually use our integrated online markup tool, which is file type ambivalent, supports, last time I checked it, it was over 250 different file formats, to actually come in and provide some red lines or some text-based comments on the drawing itself from within the platform. That was without the need to download an additional application to open that potential AutoCAD or MicroStation 3D model on their actual desktop. This tool also allows them to come in and provide some text-based text-based comments. So potentially some individuals may be a bit more old school and wants to actually print off that drawing, take a red pen and a ruler and scribble all over it. They can actually do that, come in, and you'll see here we've actually got George and Adrian in this review process that have actually come in and attached an externally scanned in drawing with the red lines associated. We do have some additional functionality as well, where we can actually come in as the review coordinator approves or rejects that document and actually stamp that particular drawing to ensure that we have a record on it to show that it was released, rejected, released with comment. Now, I talked a little bit about the review coordinator role. It is a vital role in ensuring that reviews are completed. And one of the major benefits of something like email is if there is a delay in that review process, the coordinator, and even as an escalation point on the system, an administrator, can be informed of any delays in that review process and very quickly get to the root of the problem as to who is actually causing that delay. And of course, a review coordinator will actually come in to the system, and from within one central point, what they can actually do is come in and decide whether that particular drawing was released, rejected, or released subject to comments. So the system allows them a lot of flexibility by providing the outcome of that review consistently to all reviewers and the originator on the system. And of course, once a document reaches that approval point, and we have decided that it is approved for use, a notification can go out to the wider project team to let them know that that drawing has now become available on the system, and they can actually download it and use it now, potentially on site. To take everything a little bit further, we also understand that the industry is very familiar with tools such as Bluebeam. So we actually offer an integration with Bluebeam. It'll actually allow them to use this tool to actually go in and review PDF files in using a nice familiar piece of software, while leveraging the review and approval engine that TeamBinder has, InEight document has within it. It's obviously a very powerful tool that the industry is very familiar with. At the back end of things, just to ensure one of the key differences, like I said at the beginning, is that you have visibility of what happened with your review process. There are actual reports that can be run within the system to ensure that you can see where a drawing or a document has gotten up to with its review. So here we can see quite clearly that Adrian has actually completed his review. He did it on time, Whereas when he's actually reviewing our secondary document, he hasn't completed that document. In fact, we can actually tell that it's been sitting in his queue for 37 days. That report is easily accessible to any user. Okay. So just to summarize some of the benefits of using InEight document to manage approvals, you are able to go in and predefine and even automate any distribution lists you have associated with your drawings. This could be based on a particular discipline, drawing type, or any other information. You also get the benefit of consistent reviews within the system. Everyone is using a common software, providing input and comments in a common format, which just ensures that the consolidation and review process of all that feedback is very simple and it's quite uniform. All the comments, of course, and the red lines are all stored in a single place. It can be very hard to go backwards and try and pull different pieces of information off Word files or Excel files, different drawing formats, or they've been marked up in different ways. Using InEight document, it is all stored in a single location on a single drawing. You also have the visibility of that review's progress throughout its life cycle, and you're even able to expedite particular activities. For example, if you knew that Jane wasn't at work today, she can be removed from the review team just to ensure that you're getting it done in a timely manner. Like I said, we have the online viewing tool, which means you don't have to use multiple tools or different pieces of software to handle different file formats. So that summarizes it for myself. The walkthrough of the main document and the review process.
So Ben, we have a number of good questions that have come in. So the first one is, with the markup tool, can two reviewers be reviewing and commenting at exactly the same time, or is it a sequential process?
It's a very good question. In our online viewer, the built-in online viewer, it isn't a direct collaboration process. It is a requirement that users make a red line or a markup, click save, and another user would then have to open the viewer after them. Having said that, I did mention the Bluebeam integration. Through the Bluebeam Studio reviews, it is actually possible for users to collaboratively mark up a particular drawing or go about reviewing that drawing using that inbuilt function that Bluebeam supports.
Well, interesting you mentioned Bluebeam, because our second question deals with that. If integrating with Bluebeam, where does the document reside? Is it up on the cloud, or a server in InEight, or an on-prem server?
So the file itself, the drawing file, is maintained on InEight document. What I believe it does is it renders a copy into a Bluebeam Studio session where the users can, or the reviewers can go through, mark up their drawing, provide any comments, and through the integration, once they actually complete that review, what it does is it goes back and it saves that new file into InEight document. So the record is stored back into the cloud, where it then resides and becomes available to the wider community.
Great. Has this been used to actually manage the management of change process?
The management of change process, I would have to check on that one, to be perfectly honest. We're just talking about the change potential of variation against a particular drawing there. Okay. So we got a few more here.
It appears that an InEight document will be able to handle not only construction drawings, but also project submittals and transmittals as well.
Yes, that is correct. Yes. So the system itself allows users to transmit drawings back and forth between different companies on the project or projects, and most certainly handling submittal of anything as well.
So as a bit of a follow-up to that, I would also encourage anyone that's interested to go back and take a look at, I believe it was our March document webinar that you can find on InEight.com that talks about our email and transmittal capability. And ironically, our next webinar scheduled for June will be specifically talking about things like RFIs and submittals. The next question is, can the InEight document interface with Microsoft SharePoint?
Yes, InEight document can interface with Microsoft SharePoint. That would be to ensure that any record that is created within an InEight document also exists and or resides in an on-prem SharePoint site as well.
Okay, got a few more. So does the solution support incorporating members of the extended project team, people that aren't necessarily part of my organization? If so, how does that work?
Yes, most certainly. So it's a fantastic question. Projects typically have a number of individuals from a number of different organizations. InEight document allows you to very easily go about creating and onboarding additional organizations. It doesn't have a user cap or a company cap on it in terms of usage. So it's very easy to bring additional organizations into the system and, of course, then start involving them in any of the processes that take place within the system as well. Review and approval just being one of them.
So when you described the workflow, you talked about either ors and requires, but can we also set up default due date durations for each step of the workflow?
Fantastic question. Yes, you can. You typically give them a particular review duration. So number of business days is the typical thing. Once that's set, then the reminders and the overdue notifications also kick into play based on that time frame.
You mentioned earlier that the viewer views like 250 file types. Which of those can I actually do the markups with?
The markups can go against any of the file types in the system, provided that viewer supports them. So one of the big benefits of using InEight document is that redlining tool is across all the different file formats, and it does become a uniform and common way to actually mark up those drawings, irrelevant of the file type.
Well, I believe that was our last question. Unless someone has something else, then this does conclude our webinar on the document review process. And hopefully after listening to Ben, you can understand the value of a controlled system, and the idea of just sending attachments around via email is not the optimal way to assure that your work document reviews are being done in an effective and an efficient manner. So thank you everyone for coming, and as I mentioned earlier, you can keep an eye out for an email with a link to this presentation coming out shortly.